Hello, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some of my favorite places to read. Now, for whatever reason, I have always enjoyed reading in various locations. I just don't like to restrict myself to one space for reading. Therefore, I have quite a few places that I like to go to in my free time to just grab a book or two, make the trek out there, and just sit and relax and read for some time. So today I'm going to be showing you some of those places. My first favorite place to read is really convenient because it's only about 10 feet away from me right now, and that is my reading nook. Since my sister moved out of my mom and I's apartment and I was given the opportunity to have a bedroom and an office/library, I knew I wanted a reading nook. And so earlier this year, at the absolute perfect time, I had the amazing opportunity to collaborate with Epic Reads and Dormify to actually film myself creating my reading nook. So if you want to see how I put this whole space together, I will link that video down below. I'm so happy with the way my reading nook came out. Absolutely everything is exactly the way I envisioned it in my head. I have this super comfy love seat that I got off of Wayfair that I just love lounging out on and indulging in my favorite books. I have a super cozy blanket and a bunch of pillows that just make it all around really comfortable. Y'all know my love for fairy lights, and it just really adds to the ambience of the space, and I just love how bookish it is. I have my bookish print wall, which are different art pieces inspired by some of my favorite books. I have a wall of memories related to books, whether it's moments with my friends from BookTube or signings and conventions, and I actually have a bookshelf right in that space. So it is one of my absolute favorite places to read. I just love getting in that little corner and cozying myself up in some comfy clothes and being covered by a blanket and just reading there for hours and hours while my favorite playlist plays. My next favorite place to read is also very close by, and that is the bath. I know there are so many readers out there that are super anxious about reading in the bath because what if you damage your book? What if you drop it in the water? And I feel like over the years I've really mastered the art of reading in the bath because I've never gotten any of my books wet. Fingers crossed I didn't just jinx myself now. Baths are just a great way for me to separate from the stress of the day. I love lighting some candles, and I happen to have a very large bookish candle collection, so even that is related to books. I have a passionate love for bath bombs. Not only do they look cool, but they smell wonderful, and whatever ingredients are put in there just make the bath feel even nicer on your body. And it's just so nice to sink into some hot water with a cup of tea or a glass of wine, and again, listening to my reading playlist and just read. Reading in the bath is just so relaxing for me. It's probably one of my favorite acts of self-care that I partake in regularly, and it's something that I'm just so happy I've introduced to my life over the last few years. My next favorite place to read is the beach. I have lived about 15 minutes away from the beach my entire life, and so that's been a really big part of my childhood, and especially in regard to reading. Like every single year when the new Harry Potter book would come out in the summer, I was on the beach reading that next installment. In addition to the giant classic ocean beach, where I live now, there's actually a private beach in walking distance that I can go to at literally any time, and there are a few more spread out around my town that a lot of people don't know about. So those ones are really nice because they're almost never crowded and it's like really secluded, but of course nothing compares to the Atlantic Ocean, and I really love driving down to Long Beach whenever I can. It's the combination of the sun beating down on my skin and feeling myself get tan with the smell of the ocean and sand and the sound of the waves crashing in the background that just make the perfect place to indulge in a new story and just really escape from the world. Even if it's not a full day event, just taking an hour or so to go down to the beach and feel my feet in the sand, sit in my chair or lay on my towel and read or even listen to an audiobook is something I really love to do when the weather gets nicer. My next favorite place to read might be a little strange, but I have history with this place, and that is Dunkin Donuts. So I've been open on my channel about the fact that my senior year of high school was really hard for me because I felt I was so isolated from my peers. And during that last year, I had like an hour and a half lunch break, but I didn't really have friends to sit with at the lunch table or to go out to eat with. So I spent the majority of those lunch periods at Dunkin Donuts. It's this particular Dunkin Donuts that has meant a lot to me because it's not the primary location in my town, so when I was there over lunch, I wouldn't have to worry about running into people from high school and feeling really uncomfortable. So it became a very safe space for me to spend my time and indulge in one of the very few strong passions I had at the time. And it wasn't even just over lunch periods. Like, there would be some nights where I had nothing to do, and at 9 p.m. I would drive over to Dunkin Donuts and get a cup of tea, maybe a donut or a muffin, and just sit and read my books. And for whatever reason, that meant a lot to me. For whatever reason, it was just a really comfortable place where I didn't have to hide my true self and I wasn't afraid of judgment for others, as ridiculous as that sounds. And I have to say, I feel like I really fell in love with reading in that Dunkin Donuts just because I spent so much time discovering myself and my love of books there. So although Dunkin Donuts is one of the most common franchises in America, they're everywhere, there's nothing really special about it. It just holds a lot of personal significance to me, and 4 years later, it's still one of my favorite places to read. My next favorite place to read is at my college. Naturally, as I spent 3.5 years studying there, I had to find a comfortable place for me to get cozy and read my books on my breaks, so I'm sure you can assume that place is the library. Now, for my first 2.5 years at college, I had the most perfect reading place set out in my library. My school's library has 3 floors. You have the first floor with the librarian's desks and a bunch of tables and chairs and couches and books. You have the second floor that has some classrooms, a computer lab, and a balcony with books that overlooks the first floor. And then you have the third floor, which is a ton of really cramped bookshelves, but they had a quiet study room that used to have some really comfy couches and some great lighting, and it was just the perfect place to read. But they moved all of those couches to the first floor, and now there's just a bunch of individual desks. And so my perfect reading place at school was taken away from me. But I've still really loved reading at my school's library. I really enjoy sitting at one of the few chairs they have on the balcony so I can overlook the rest of the library, and it is just so wonderful being surrounded by books but also being indulged in my own story. It was really nice to have a designated place to go to read, especially on campus where I'm constantly stressing about assignments and classes. After my work was done and I had extra time, I could just snuggle up on one of the couches in the library and read some of my favorite books, and it was a great part of my college experience, to be honest. Since I will be completing my master's at the same school, I am extremely hopeful that they bring back the quiet study room couches and I can just lay there after doing my work all day, because God knows I will need it. The next location is actually a new 2018 addition to my list of favorite places to read, even though it seems it would be pretty obvious, and that is Barnes & Noble. It's actually during the biannual bibliothon, when I was filming all of these reading vlogs, that somehow prompted me to go to Barnes & Noble 4 times in 1 week, and I've just sort of adopted it as a new part of my schedule to go at least once or twice a week. Basically, my treatment center, where I go to individual and group therapy once or twice a week, is about 50 minutes away from my house with traffic. And on the nights that I would go to therapy, I almost always had a pole class after, but I would usually have an hour or 2 hours in between the two. And what worked out so perfectly is that Barnes & Noble is practically smack dab in the middle of the two, so rather than going home from therapy and then driving all the way out to pole, I would leave therapy, go to Barnes & Noble, sit at the cafe, get a cup of tea, maybe a snack, and just sit and read and then go to my pole class. So reading at Barnes & Noble has just become a regular part of my schedule lately, and I'm really enjoying it. In 2018, I've definitely been reading more than I have for the last couple of years, and I feel a large influence on that has been these Barnes & Noble reading expeditions, just because I'm able to cut out specific times during the week where I can just go someplace and focus on reading, which has been so wonderful. Not only is it nice to sit and be surrounded by other people who share my love of books and are just engaged in their own works of literature, but it's also nice to just walk around and stroll the shelves whenever I want to. So it's a really nice environment to read in, and I'm just so happy that it's been more of a regular part of my schedule lately. And my final favorite place to read is probably the place I read at the least, but it is one of my absolute favorite places in the entire world, and that is the Witchs Brew coffee house. The Witchs Brew is this really popular coffee shop in my area. It is just so awesome with all of its mixed matched furniture and twinkly lights, and it's just a very ambient location to be in, and everyone enjoys it. They have a huge menu of drinks and delicious food and desserts. A lot of it's vegan and gluten-free, which is really awesome, and it is just one of my favorite places to be, so naturally I love to read there. The reason I don't read there as much as I would like to is, like I said, it's really popular, so it's very crowded, and I feel like the only time that it's like acceptable to be there is during the day, because it becomes like a really big spot for friends to hang out. And along with that comes the fear of judgment or being afraid of looking pathetic for being alone in a coffee shop by myself reading, even though I know logically there is nothing wrong with that, and every single time I do go there I just have the best time reading. I feel like part of the reason why I just love going there to read so much, other than the fact that they have these awesome individual teapots with delicious tea inside, is that it does feel like a coffee shop out of a book. It just seems like the type of place that fictional characters would go to talk after school every day, and it's really enjoyable, and I love spending time there, and I definitely think I need to go there more and just sit down and read my books and enjoy my tea. So that really concludes my video on some of my favorite places to read. I had so much fun going to all of these places and reading and showing them to you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Definitely let me know in the comments below, what are some of your favorite places to read? Do you have places like myself that you just love to take the trek out to and sit and read for hours? Or are you more of a homebody who just likes to be snuggled up in comfy clothes in your bed with lots of blankets? Because all of those options, no matter where you're reading, sound really awesome. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon for a new one. Bye!